A black CEO marched into her bank expecting to walk out with her own money, only to be sneered at, humiliated, and told, "You don't belong here." She didn't scream or beg. She unleashed a storm that made them choke on their arrogance, and the fallout was glorious. It was a sweltering Tuesday morning in Charlotte, North Carolina, when Nia Carter stormed through the gleaming glass doors of Pinnacle Trust Bank. The lobby reeked of privilege, polished marble floors, air heavy with the scent of fresh orchids and high-end cologne, chandeliers sparkling like they were taunting anyone who dared question their glow. Nia wasn't here for drama. She needed $80,000 in cash, fast, to close a deal for her nonprofit, a coding academy for underserved youth she'd been pouring her heart into for years. Her navy suit was crisp as a knife's edge, tailored to her frame, paired with emerald green heels that clicked like a metronome. No flashy logos, just a sleek leather briefcase and a gold watch that glinted subtly. At 42, she was the founder of CyberPeak, a cybersecurity powerhouse worth $650 million, but to anyone glancing, she was just another face, until she opened her mouth. Nia strode to the teller counter, her presence commanding without effort. Behind the desk sat Ethan, a lanky guy in his mid-20s, hair gelled stiff, badge slightly askew. His eyes flicked up, sizing her up like she'd wandered into the wrong city. "Can I help you?" he drawled, his tone sluggish, like he was already done with her. "I need to withdraw $80,000 from my account," Nia said, sliding her ID and platinum bank card across the counter. Her voice was smooth but firm, leaving no room for nonsense. She'd done this before, big transactions, no fuss. Pinnacle Trust held her company's accounts, her personal wealth, millions in trusts. This should have been a 5-minute stop. Ethan's fingers froze mid-tap. He snatched her ID, holding it like it was a forged bus pass. His eyes darted between the card, her face, and the screen, lips curling into a smirk that screamed trouble. "80,000, he repeated, loud enough for heads to turn. A man by the loan desk paused, pen hovering. A woman near the coffee station glanced over, brow arched. "That's a big number. You sure this is your account?" Nia's jaw tightened, but she kept her cool, her gaze locking onto his like a missile. "It's my account. I checked the balance at 6:30 a.m. It's there. Run it." Ethan leaned back, crossing his arms, that smirk growing uglier. "Ma'am, I'm not seeing that kind of money under your name." His voice dripped with condescension, the word "ma'am" sounding like a slur. "Maybe you meant another bank. There's a credit union down the road." The air in the lobby shifted, heavy and charged, like the moment before a thunderstorm. Nia felt eyes boring into her. A security guard by the entrance straightened, his hand brushing his radio. A teller 3 stations down stopped sorting checks, stealing a glance. She knew this script, had lived it too many times. The doubt, the dismissal, the assumption she was out of place. At 20, she'd been trailed in a tech store, accused of pocketing a USB drive she'd just paid for. At 28, a realtor chuckled when she inquired about a penthouse, saying, "Let's look at something more realistic." Now, standing in a bank that thrived off her wealth, it was happening again, and it ignited a fire in her core. Not rage, but something sharper, colder, ready to dismantle this place brick by brick. "Run it again," she said, her voice low, each word a dart. Carter, Nia, primary account. You'll find it. Ethan snorted, not even trying to hide it. He tapped a few keys, slow as syrup, then shook his head, playing to the crowd now. Nope, nothing. Look, lady, we can't just hand out cash because you say it's yours. Got another ID? Or maybe call whoever handles your finances. His eyes flicked to her briefcase like it was a prop in a scam. Nia didn't flinch, but her pulse throbbed in her chest. She leaned forward, just enough to make him shift uncomfortably, her voice dropping to a lethal calm. You're telling me Pinnacle Trust, a bank I've trusted with my company's portfolio for 12 years, can't find my account? The one tied to CyberPeak? The one your CEO personally begged me to open? Ethan's smirk faltered, but he doubled down, ego outweighing sense. CyberPeak? Yeah, I've heard of it. Doesn't mean you're her. He laughed, a sharp, nasty sound that echoed in the lobby. The man by the loan desk gasped softly. The woman smirked, sipping her coffee like she was watching a drama unfold. The security guard took a step closer, her audio crackling. Nia's eyes narrowed, but she didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Get your manager, she said, each word slicing through his bravado. Now! Ethan hesitated, caught off guard by her calm, then shrugged, playing it cool. Fine, but don't expect miracles. He sauntered to a back office, leaving her ID and card on the counter like garbage. Nia didn't touch them. She stood like a general in a war zone, shoulders square, chin high, feeling the lobby's gaze crawl over her, curious, judgmental, waiting for her to crack. She wouldn't, not today, not ever. Minutes dragged like hours. Whispers rippled through the crowd. A woman muttered about scammers these days. A man clutched his briefcase tighter. The security guard, a stocky guy with a crew cut, loomed closer, his boots scuffing the granite. Nia caught his eye, held it, and he looked away, uneasy. She wasn't just fighting Ethan now. She was battling a room full of assumptions, a system built to make her feel small. Her mind flashed to her first pitch at 24. A venture capitalist sneering, "Cute idea, but this tech's too advanced for you." She'd buried him, built her empire, and still, here she was, proving her place in a bank that owed her its luster. The office door swung open, and out strode a woman in a black blazer, her auburn bob rigid with product, badge gleaming. Branch manager Karen Holt. Her smile was a scalpel, sharp and cold, meant to slice through complaints. "Miss Carter," she said, glancing at the ID like it was a novelty. "I hear there's an issue with a withdrawal." "No issue," Nia replied, her voice steady as bedrock. "I want $80,000 from my account. Your teller says it doesn't exist. Fix it." Karen's smile tightened, her eyes scanning Nia, suit, heels, briefcase, like she was solving a riddle that didn't add up. "Large withdrawals require verification," she said, her tone sugary but laced with poison. "We have strict protocols to prevent fraud. I'm sure you understand." Nia's laugh was low, dangerous, like a storm brewing. "Fraud? You think I'm here to rob my own bank? My name's on your corporate accounts, your annual reports, your VIP client list. I've got millions parked here. And you're telling me I need to prove it? Karen didn't blink, but her lips twitched, betraying her. Ms. Carter, if that's who you are, we just need to confirm. If? Nia cut in, her voice a whip crack that silenced the lobby. Head snapped up. The guard froze. Ethan, lurking behind Karen, paled. You're standing in a bank I helped build, questioning if I'm me? Do your job, or I'll find someone who can. The room was a pressure cooker now, tension thick enough to choke on. Karen's face flushed, but she held her ground, doubling down with the arrogance of someone who'd never been challenged. Ma'am, she said, her voice sharp enough to cut stone. We can't just hand out cash to anyone who walks in with a story. If you don't have proper documentation, I'll have to ask you to leave. The word leave hit like a slap. Nia's eyes blazed, but she didn't move, didn't raise her voice. She felt the lobby closing in, eyes whispers, the guard's hand now on his radio, ready to escalate. A man by the ATM muttered, "Trouble's brewing." A woman in line smirked like she'd bet against her. This wasn't just a transaction anymore, it was a battlefield, and Nia was done playing nice. You want documentation? She said. Her voice low, lethal, every syllable a dagger. How about the contract I signed with your CEO, David Marshall, in 2012? Or the $45 million cyber peak deposited last quarter? Or the fact that I own a stake in your parent company? She leaned forward, her presence a tidal wave. You're not just denying me money. You're spitting on my name. And trust me, you don't want to play that game. Karen's smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of doubt, but her pride wouldn't bend. Ms. Carter, she said, her voice trembling with forced calm. I don't know what you're trying to pull, but this attitude won't get you anywhere. Security, please escort her out. The guard stepped forward, his boots loud now, his hand hovering near his belt. The lobby gasped collectively, a chorus of shock and glee, like they'd all bought tickets to her downfall. Ethan grinned, thinking he'd won. A woman whispered, "She's done for." Nia felt the weight of it all. Their eyes, their judgment, their eagerness to see her humbled. It wasn't new, but it stung, a blade twisting in an old wound. She thought of her mother, cleaning offices to send her to Stanford, whispering, "Don't let them dim you, Nia." She wouldn't. Not now, not ever. "Stop," Nia said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a gunshot. The guard halted, startled by her authority. She pulled out her phone, her movements deliberate, her eyes never leaving Karen's. "You want to play hardball? Let's play!" She dialed a number. One she kept for emergencies, one that could crack this bank like a walnut. As it rang, she stared down Karen, who shifted uneasily, her confidence crumbling like dry clay. "David," Nia said when the call connected, her voice calm but razor sharp. "It's Nia Carter. I'm at your Charlotte branch, and your manager's treating me like a thief. They're refusing my withdrawal, $80,000 my own money, and threatening to throw me out. I need this fixed now." She paused, listening, then added, "No, I'm not waiting. Handle it, or I pull every cent Cyberpeak has in Pinnacle Trust today." She hung up, slipped the phone into her pocket, and crossed her arms, her gaze a furnace. Karen's face, drained of color, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Ethan's grin vanished, his hands fumbling with a stapler. The guard backed off, sensing the shift, his radio silent. The lobby was a tomb now, every whisper dead, every eye locked on Naya. She didn't gloat or smirk. She stood like a monument, unyielding, letting their fear fill the silence. Seconds ticked by, each one a sledgehammer. Then Karen's desk phone shrilled, shattering the quiet. She lunged for it, her hands shaking, her voice a squeak. "Yes, sir. I didn't know. No, we didn't mean—" Her eyes darted to Nia, wide with panic, like she'd just realized she'd provoked a lion. She hung up, her face ashen, and forced a smile that looked like it might break her jaw. "Miss Carter, there's been a terrible mistake. Your account's verified. We'll have your money in minutes." Naya didn't blink. A mistake? Her voice was ice, sharp enough to draw blood. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. You looked at me, my skin, my face, and decided I wasn't worth your time. You don't get to call that a glitch." Karen stammered. I didn't mean—" "Save it," Nia snapped, her patience gone, her voice a blade slicing through excuses. "I don't want your apologies. I want my money. And I want you to remember this moment when you're explaining it to your boss." Ethan scurried to the vault, his bravado reduced to a nervous shuffle. Karen hovered, wringing her hands, her authority in tatters. The lobby watched, riveted, like they were witnessing an empire crumble. Naya felt their stares, but didn't care. She was done performing for them. She thought of every door slammed in her face, every smirk, every "you're not what we expected." This wasn't just about $80,000. It was about respect, about power, about refusing to let anyone rewrite her worth. Ethan returned, sweating, carrying a steel case packed with crisp hundreds. He set it down with a thud, his voice barely audible. "Here's the $80,000, Ms. Carter." "I'm so sorry." Nia opened the case, checked the stacks with a glance, and snapped it shut. She looked at Ethan, then Karen, her eyes burning through them. "Sorry doesn't cut it," she said, her voice low, venomous. "You didn't just waste my time. You tried to erase me. You think I'm invisible? Watch me now." She turned, case in hand, and strode toward the exit, her heels a war drum. The lobby parted like the Red Sea, every face stunned, some ashamed, some awestruck. The guard held the door, muttering, "Ma'am, have a good day." She didn't answer. She stepped into the sunlight, the case light in her grip, her heart pounding with a victory hard won. By noon, Pinnacle Trust was a hornet's nest. David Marshall had called an emergency board meeting, his voice trembling with fury. Nia's call had been a grenade, and the blast was still reverberating. Executives scrambled, pulling security tapes, auditing logs, drafting statements to keep her from torching their empire. Cyberpeak wasn't just a client. It was a lifeline, with $180 million in accounts, investments, and trusts. Losing her would cripple them, and they knew it. Naya didn't care about their chaos. She sat in her office, a sleek, glass-walled perch overlooking Charlotte's skyline, the case on her desk like a war trophy. Her assistant, Jaden, knocked, grinning. "Marshall's called 4 times. Sounds like he's sweating bullets. Want to take it?" "Let him beg," Naya said, her voice cool, her eyes on her laptop. "I'm not done." Jaden laughed. "X is blowing up. Someone posted about a queen shutting down Pinnacle Trust. No names, but it's trending. You good?" "I'm better than good," she said, a spark in her eyes. "I'm ready." She wasn't chasing headlines or likes. This was war, a fight for every time she'd been doubted, followed, dismissed. She thought of her first big contract at 27, when a client asked if she was really the lead developer because she didn't fit the profile. She'd buried him too and built a legacy. But legacy wasn't enough when banks like Pinnacle Trust still saw her as less. That afternoon, she drove to the Coding Academy site, a vacant lot rimmed with wire fencing and ambition. She handed the case to the project manager, a no-nonsense woman named Carla, who didn't blink at the cash. "This'll get us servers, monitors, the works," Carla said. "Kids are going to lose it." "That's why I'm here," Nia replied, her voice softening, her eyes on the horizon. She saw it clear. Kids programming, dreaming, free from the weight of rooms, like that bank lobby. This was her fight, not for glory, but for them. Back at Pinnacle Trust, Karen and Ethan were drowning. Marshall had stormed into Charlotte, his presence a guillotine. In a conference room thick with dread, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You had one job," he said, his words like frost. "Protect our clients. Instead, you spit in the face of our biggest. Give me one reason I shouldn't fire you both." Karen babbled about compliance, security, unusual activity. Ethan stared at the table, mute, his career flashing before his eyes. Marshall cut them off. "This isn't about rules, it's about arrogance. You saw Miss Carter and decided she wasn't worth your respect. That's not an error. It's a death sentence for this branch." Karen was suspended that day, her office cleared by 5 p.m. Ethan was demoted to back office clerical work, his desk moved to a dim cubicle. Marshall ordered a company-wide overhaul, mandatory bias training, client sensitivity audits, zero tolerance for oversights. It wasn't enough to save face, but it was a start. Nia got the update via email, a groveling note from Marshall. "Karen's out, Ethan's off the floor. We're rebuilding trust. Please meet with me." She didn't reply. Trust wasn't a memo. It was action, and she'd seen too little. Instead, she called her CFO, Amara. "Start moving our liquid assets," she said. $15 million to Harmony Bank. Slow. No noise. Amara whistled. "You're playing chess." "I'm winning," Naya corrected, her voice steel. Harmony Bank was black-owned, hungry, eager for her business. She'd met their CEO at a conference years ago, admired her hustle. This wasn't revenge, it was power, redirecting her wealth to those who'd value it. Pinnacle Trust could keep her big accounts for now, but she'd make them bleed, remind them who held the reins. The next day, Nia returned to Pinnacle Trust, not to fight, but to watch. She wore a sweatshirt and jeans, blending in, her briefcase swapped for a plain backpack. No one clocked her, not the new teller, not the guard, who was busy chatting with a clerk. She stood by the water fountain, eyes scanning the room. The staff moved like they were under siege, heads down, voices hushed. A new sign hung by the counters. All clients deserve respect. Always. She overheard a teller whisper, "Big client got screwed here yesterday. Board's freaking out." Another replied, "Good. Maybe they'll stop treating people like suspects." Naya's lips curved, not a smile, but close. Change was creeping in, slow but real. She didn't need their apologies. She needed a world where she didn't have to fight to be seen. She left quietly, her shadow long in the morning light. That night, she hosted a cookout at her penthouse, a vibrant space filled with soul music and laughter. Her sister Kayla and old Stanford friends filled the room, fried chicken and collards on every plate. Kayla raised a glass. To Nia, who doesn't just break glass ceilings, she burns whole skyscrapers down. They roared, but Nia's mind was elsewhere, picturing the coding academy, kids with laptops, futures unfolding. Pinnacle Trust was a footnote, a spark for something bigger. She'd turned their scorn into a mirror, forcing them to choke on their reflection. Weeks later, Marshall got his meeting, a stark office uptown, no frills. He looked worn, his tie askew. "We're changing everything," he pleaded. "Training's live, metrics are tight. Tell me what you need." Nia sipped her coffee, letting him stew. "I need proof," she said. "Your bank's been riding my coattails too long. Show me respect, not words, results, or I'm gone." 6 months, he said. 2, she shot back, her eyes unyielding. "And I'm counting." She didn't mention the $15 million she'd moved. Some moves were silent, sharper for it. They shook hands, but she wasn't swayed. She'd watch, test, hold him to the fire. Months later, the coding academy opened. A beacon of chrome and glass, kids pouring in, eyes wide. Nia stood in the crowd, no speech, just pride, watching a boy debug his first app. Fearless. Kayla nudged her. "This is it, right?" "Damn right," Nia whispered, her heart full. Back at her desk, she kept the withdrawal receipt, a quiet relic of that day. Not anger, but fuel, proof she could bend the world to see her truth. She'd turned a bank's failure into a lesson they'd never unlearn, and she'd do it again if she had to. For anyone who's been pushed aside, told you're not enough, or made to feel small, take it from Nia. You don't need their approval to rise. Walk tall, own your space, and let them scramble to catch up. If this story lit a fire in you, share it, comment, hit that subscribe button. Let's keep these stories alive, demanding justice one voice at a time.